Hey Mim,
Hiya.
welcome back guys to Style Over Substance. How you doing this week, Mim?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm not bad. I really need to make some food. I have been putting this off for like 2 days. It sounds ridiculous.
What for the week or
For like the weekend. I need to cook something. The only thing I ate was I bought food and now I'm just like now I'm eating olives and it's just struggle over here. What about you? How are you?
yeah, I'm not too bad. I'm not too bad. I'm quite the opposite. I've been cooking up a storm. Taking a bit of a dishoom feast over to my parents later.
Oh,
I've gone a bit overboard. I've done like 1,000 dishes.
oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. So I've been cooking up a storm, looking at my kitchen, and there's lots of washing up to do.
Oh yeah, same. I think that's the reason why I haven't cooked because I have washing up to do.
Yeah.
Oh.
It never takes as long as you think, but it's just the
Yeah,
thought of it that's just like, but
yeah, exactly.
oh well. What is your fashion story this week?
So mine is Vogue has come out with like a list of what our spring summer trends will be. And I thought we could go through them quickly.
Can I dare to guess that there's florals? Florals for spring?
Groundbreaking. No, there aren't on this list.
Oh,
But I mean, having said that, like half of them are like
generic.
obvious generic options for spring summer. So you might be able to guess some of those other ones. But I thought I'll pin out some of the ones that I've seen already online and see if you can kind of see them spring up in your life as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so one is those stringy floss straps that crisscross around the body. Have you seen it? And like round the arm and stuff, very stringy.
Oh, I've seen it sort of more like on swimwear and stuff like that. Those sorts of swimsuits that aren't going to give you the best tan line.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so actually, another one. Well, it's not a trend, but it was mentioned that a lot of people have been taking to wearing their like bikini bras upside down. Have
Yeah,
you seen that?
I've seen stuff like that, but like people have got so inventive with how to tie their bikinis
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it's
It's
mind.
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
So that was one. And then wide leg trousers. And I'm all over that. I love
me
either
too.
like a tailored option or a wide leg denim jeans option. I love it.
Yeah,
So I feel like I've seen a lot of that around the place. Also, that kind of reminds me, like the wide leg denim trousers remind me of when we were like younger and like how the grunge, like gothic scene was. And they used to like drag the floor and absorb all the water.
yeah.
And then they used to pair them with like
Those really
big,
bulky
yeah,
boots.
they weren't Vans. What brand were they? It
Was it
was some,
Vagabond?
oh, something like that.
It was like it wasn't Doc Martin, but they were like moon boots, but
Yeah,
like
yeah,
sort
yeah,
of
yeah.
leathery.
And then it had like silver metal bits, like either like
Lots of like
buckles or classes.
buckles.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
love it.
it's not coming back in that version, but it is
No.
coming back. Then we've got a lot of cutout pieces, like cutout dresses, cutout tops. I feel a lot of these trends on this list is just not for British weather, but it's for like those who live in California.
Yeah.
And then another one that surprised me because I haven't really seen it around is like disco sequins. And they call it like they had a specific phrase for it. I can't remember it now, but it was like sequins on very normal wear. So you could just like wear it on a normal day-to-day
Love
basis.
that. I've said it before, I think, on the podcast. I don't think that sequins are worn enough. I think they could be way more of like a day-to-day thing, like worn like correctly. I just love a sequin.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, I see that. I think also like I've definitely seen on like ASOS and stuff like that where like they've taken like a jogger and made it like a sequin thing. So it's sort of like a button-up shirt with like sort of jogger-shaped trousers, all sequin. And I think they are starting to like, add sequins to stuff that's not just like a going out dress.
Yeah. I don't know if that's trickled down from or if it's just influenced by, but Bottega Veneta has these like really, if you go on their website, they've got these long dresses and, as you said, like really loose fitted shirts, but they're like completely sequined out, very expensive. But I think it might be a trickle down trend from that. And then lastly, negating all the kind of regular trends that we see every year, is capes and capped shoulders, like bolero type thing.
Really?
You don't seem too keen.
Interesting. I just don't think, like, I'm not the biggest fan of a poncho. You know, like there was a while where like the trend was sort of like girls would wear like Primark leggings with like a big poncho, and I'm just
wow, that is 2000s fashion right there.
Yeah.
Some of these younger girls don't know how bad it got, but
I think capes and stuff like that, if they're sort of made out of like a heavy duty fabric, like a wool, can be really chic. But I would say that's more winter than like the way I think they look nicest. But and also I was very much a victim of, do you remember those cardigans that were literally like little boleros? They would be like crochet and like they did nothing, but you'd wear them with like a tank. Like a camisole or something. I'm getting flashbacks of just how we used to dress, what I used to dress.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think I probably had a poncho from Primark as well. But this one, the options that I saw that demonstrated this trend were quite nice.
Okay.
They were like a loose fitting fabric, kind of a cotton or a silky kind of fabric, and it's just like a cropped bolero, like round the shoulders, like you got a dress underneath, and like in the same fabric you've got that little kind of shoulder moment. I don't like the cropped thing, but I do love a big cape, like a longer version or a cape sleeve type thing. I think those can be cool, but not an everyday thing I'm going to see on the high street anytime soon, I don't think.
No, that's true.
Yeah, so that's my fashion story. What is your fashion story?
So it's everywhere that there's a Friends reunion coming next week. And it sort of just reminded me of like, as we were just talking about sort of 90s fashion, noughties fashion. And like, less so I'm talking now for how we dress as children. But like the fashion that was on Friends is something like when I catch old episodes that like has really come back around again. Like that sort of darker nude, ready sort of like lipsticks, like that sort of 90s, like the mini dresses, the fitted stuff. And like all of like the trends that you see the girls wearing in particular is just like it all comes back around. Especially at the moment, like it's all quite cool, and just sort of the fit of the jeans and all of that stuff has just come back around. And
I think when I think of 90s fashion, it's very like minimalist lines. It's very like clean lines. I just think
Calvin Klein.
Yeah, it's nothing too like frilly or frivolous or, you know, really simple shapes.
Very effortless chic.
Yeah, and as you said, like the makeup kind of reflected that. It was like trying to look natural, trying to look like you're not wearing makeup, which it was far more popular back then. And I think now we've tried to imitate it, but in a more like luxe, expensive, more glamorized version. So yeah, I think this might be a bit off topic, but I remember reading things about how when we have like economic downturns, things become simplified in fashion. When we come out of them, we have like maximalist moments and things like that. But within them, I think it's the idea of like logomania is a bit like a faux pas, you know? And during the like lockdowns, the initial ones and the initial kind of lockdowns and pandemic, we saw a lot of criticism of being ostentatious online and people getting criticized for being a bit too glam and a bit too like out there with their money. And I don't know if it has anything to do with that, this like complete revival and appreciation for like 90s nostalgia. I don't know, but it's just interesting to think of it in that way.
Yeah, and actually I think what you said is pretty on the head of like when everything turned quite sour, we all reverted to elasticated clothing, simplicity, like no makeup for like days type of an existence.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about cottagecore, didn't we? Like cottagecore and all of that. And now, but like kind of to my fashion story, a lot of the things on this list, the things I didn't mention was like netting and stripes and wearing hoodies with pleated skirts. It's a lot fussier. These like lots of straps and like disco sequins and stuff. I think it's that sentiment of like us emerging out from, as you call it, like a sour period into something that's a bit more like out there.
Sure. For sure.
You're right.
Oh.
We interrupt this broadcast to remind you, go follow us on Instagram, Style Over Substance Pod. Shoot us an email, styleoversubstancepeak@gmail.com. Find us on YouTube. Find us on Twitter. We've got all the links on our Instagram. You know what to do.
Well, this week we are discussing a topic that I think maybe a few people have recommended, but is also ever topical, that are fashion magazines still relevant?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this topic comes around every few years, especially in the last 20 years when digital media has just been the dominant media, like, and it's come in different forms with different apps and different websites and things, and it's like slowly pushed out print media. And every so often we have this discussion about, is print media and magazines still relevant? And then they try to like switch it up, you know, these like magazine houses try to switch up their format or switch up how many times they publish or what they do and who they have on the cover, and in a way to stay relevant or to stay ahead of the curve. And I feel like, I think over the past year when we've seen so much change, I think it's relevant to like discuss it again.
And actually, I wouldn't mind betting that this last year has probably been quite good for print media.
Okay.
We've had more time to sit at home.
Yeah.
I would have I didn't buy any magazines, but I would have been maybe more inclined to buy one because I was going to sit at home. Like the amount of times one of my old workplaces used to like have all the magazines like free, that you could like pick up, and I used to always sort of pick them up and be like, I'll read that. Did I ever? No, didn't have the time. And like that wasn't really what I was ever going to do. But I think, you know, it's the first time that maybe we've slowed down and could have enjoyed some issues a little bit more. But then also touching on your point of like, you know, switching up who they have on the cover, it's sort of in the last 5 years, particularly for Vogue, that they've turned more celebrity on their approach. So like Vogue is notoriously what a model wants to land on the cover of, you know, that is the elite of magazine covers. It is the pinnacle for any model. They know how many Vogue covers they've done, type of a thing. It's like a musician getting a #1 single. But like with Billie Eilish being on the front, Harry Styles, there's probably been like, I'm sure Rihanna has, like Kim Kardashian and Kanye, you know, like it's way more pop culture than ever before. And I wouldn't mind betting that that is a drive for sales.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's the case, but I do want to start off asking you, when was the last time you bought a magazine?
Other than at an airport, which obviously we all haven't been to for a while, that's maybe the most. But now I'm more of a book person anyway to buy at an airport.
Okay, so it's been a while.
It's been a really long time. I did used to have a Vogue subscription when I was younger, but I'm talking like when I was 16.
Yeah. I remember that as well.
Other than that, I don't know if I could tell you.
Yeah, same. I can't remember, to be honest. And it kind of takes me on to my first point, because you know how we were talking about it was about Gucci, and we said that we think it was with Gucci Fest, and we were saying that Gucci is moving into this more content media company or brand as opposed to strictly just a fashion one. And so Gucci has actually partnered up with a content agency, and they're bringing out a magazine called Perfect. And this was kind of announced in March. And I think that kind of demonstrates their ambitions to like move more into this media sphere as a way to like push their overall brand. And so this, in reading up about this kind of project, it's more of a coffee table type book, and it's retailing for £35. And the first issue is like this.
How many do they do a year?
So this is the thing. It's not like as timed as like every month or every few weeks or something like we see with ID magazine. It's like, I don't know how sparingly their prints will be, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think that's a key point about it. So it's the first issue is like music focused, and it comes with this like vinyl, and it's like the whole theme is quite music focused, but it obviously incorporates fashion. So you have Gucci, you have like Emporio Armani and Dior, all with like separate features, like fashion features and whatnot. And it's going to be sold at like Dover Street Market, which is like the ultimate store for like cool kids. And I think the idea is that we might see more of these magazines being published less frequently than what we've seen in the past, but they're thicker and they're like more coffee table books. Because I mean, we all know everyone and their cat has a Tom Ford fashion book, you know, for the aesthetics. And
there are people who literally buy books to never open because they look cool. Yeah.
And I have some other fashion books that are like, I mean, they're sold everywhere, and they're like big and they're chunky, and they have like loads of pictures from like runways of the past like 40 years, let's say. And I've seen other people with the same books that I have, and they're a look, they're a flex, or they're an archival.
They're deemed as like attractive for your bookcase or your coffee table.
Yeah. And
like,
I think that magazines, especially the ones that are trying to be the coolest, are going to move into that idea of less frequent, more expensive. And I don't know about you, but I'm more likely to buy something like that than I am something that's going to come out once a month.
That's churned out every month.
£5 and it will come
same format every time, essentially. Yeah. No, that's true. And also, I think then that like paves the way for each edition to be really special and have different focuses and stuff like that. And also like it could be way more topical. And I don't know, I think that the magazine sphere's got a real amount of depth that it could change and transition into. But yeah, we are seeing people sort of more gravitate towards, I guess, obviously there's online stuff, but like they're still reluctant to remove print publication full stop because it's the purest form. But there has been a significant decline in sales of stuff like that. So in the US, they used to make $46 billion in magazine sales in 2007. And then in 2019, that was halved.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's the idea of why pay for something when I can get it for free online.
And also you could also, I'm sure, I actually don't know, but I'm sure Vogue's probably got an online subscription.
Yeah.
For your iPad or your phone. It's a bit like, you can get the Times online. You can have a subscription to different newspapers and things like that. But also we get a lot of content for free now. A lot of content. So then, like, why would you? And also with the way that the internet is, there's almost sort of this leak culture, as in, like, say there was, I want to read that Billie Eilish article from Vogue. I'm sure someone's posted it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure I could find it online. If that's like the pinnacle that you would buy the magazine for or pay the subscription for, I'm sure someone's put it out there.
Yeah.
So there's sort of this real difficulty of trying to, like, even use those tactics to push things. I think it's more for sort of the diehard admirers. But also, this isn't just for fashion. This is for, I think, like, this is particularly the case for a lot of, like, gossip magazines that also, like, do fashion as well. So, like, I saw an article that the BBC was talking about magazine culture, and magazines like Look, Now, Closer, Heat, Grazia, which is sort of half gossip, half sort of fashiony, like, well, they've got some fashion pages, all have gone down significantly.
Okay.
And actually the magazines that people are buying into more physically are more like topical things, like the Spectator, Private Eye, The Economist, Prospect. And they were sort of implying that that's a sign of the times, that having had, like, quite heavy political years with Brexit, then obviously with stuff to do with COVID, but just, it's been quite a politically heavy with Trump in power. I think it's people wanting to equip themselves with information. And also we are seeing the removal of, like, fickle stories.
Yeah, I think, that's a really good point you've touched on. I think Daily Mail is probably stronger than ever. And they're, like, full of fickle stories. But, like,
their content is also the worst it's ever been. Like, as someone who does go on the Daily Mail, I avidly followed it in school, and I would live for what they posted, because Instagram and things like that weren't so big. So you did get your news broken to you there, whereas now they see someone post something, like, say Hilary Duff is, like, posting something on her Instagram, they'll be like, Hilary Duff did this with her kids today, and it's like, well, yeah, I follow her on Instagram, I know. It's like that kind of a thing where it's way less interesting.
On the other side, when you were talking about things becoming more political, I think 100% that's the case. We've seen, like, at a lot of magazine publications, particularly with fashion, this, like, attempt to change the guards of who's in the C-suite, who's, like, the director of this and that and the third, and trying to change the overall magazine culture. Because in recent years, we've seen magazines are forced to embrace a more political stance on things, as you said, with Trump in America, and here with Brexit and everything else. And also last summer with Black Lives Matter marches, and a lot of the public and employees who work for these magazines have come out and criticized the work culture at these magazines, the elitism, the discrimination and things. I mean, we all knew that Vogue was elitist. That's the whole point of Vogue, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
sort of how it started.
But, like, the employee culture and how you're treated if you work within these companies. So they have been forced to be like, oh yeah, we're going to be more diverse. Yeah, we're going to be more inclusive. We're going to be this, that, and the other. We're going to hire some people of color to be our diversity officer and whatnot. And they've been forced to make really public statements about their views politically, I think. And so, yeah, I think definitely they've had to change their content. But I don't know, for me, with all of that, like, attempts to politically change or to have, like, different people at the helm of these magazines, it still doesn't encourage me to buy the actual magazine. I'm like, oh yeah, cool story, bro. And then I just like continue to not buy them. I don't think that alone has incentivized me to go out and buy any and this is coming from someone who I used to buy magazines like every week or something, and I used to love them. Obviously this was when I was a child, and as you said, when we were teenagers, Instagram wasn't a thing. It was only really when we went to uni. So it's not that I don't inherently like magazines. I just still don't think that makes them any more relevant nowadays.
I think for me as well, what I buy Vogue for is really to look at the fashion spreads.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest reader of the articles on like someone who lost their dog. Not that Vogue does that, but like, like I'm not really there for like half of the articles. I'm probably there for like the main articles. I'm there to look at the fashion shoots, and like that's kind of it. And once you sort of realize that, you're not really reading half of the magazine or anything like that. That's sort of, I think, what deters me. And actually, I don't even think there's anything they could do, even if every article, like, I'm a big fan of Taylor Swift. If she was on the cover and there was an article about baking, which I love, there's an article about like knitwear, there's an article about Chanel. Would I buy that? Still probably not, even if every article was like the perfect thing for me.
I think for me in that regards, it's that they could probably change up what they write about, but I just maybe haven't given them the chance to actually read and see how it has actually changed. I don't know, but those sorts of things haven't really encouraged me to go out and buy magazines. But I was reading up about Harper's Bazaar. I think they've got a new editor, and her name's Samira Nasir. And one thing she said that I read was actually really interesting to me, and I thought, wow, this is actually a good like cultural change in a sense. That she goes, I don't believe that our role is to suggest women reinvent their wardrobes every season, but instead to like build them and to wear what you invest in. And I thought that, I think, is really interesting, because it's like sometimes magazines can just be about, oh, we're just trying to sell you something, as opposed to these really high fashion magazines talking about how to actually like take care of your stuff and how to actually love your stuff, and like not necessarily buy into trends, but it's a whole like mental shift in how you go about appreciating fashion. And I thought, like, for me anyway, that is a more interesting approach to these magazines, because to be honest, like I could see like Megan Thee Stallion, she was on like a Harper's Bazaar cover, and I like her, but I follow her on Instagram. So me seeing more pictures of her in a magazine doesn't really do anything for my life.
When she'll post them all eventually herself.
She'll post them on her Instagram and I'll be like, oh, nice cover. And that's it. I think that doesn't really make any difference to me. And I mean, it's all good and well and changing and having a more diverse, like, team, I think is excellent. But if you're going to write about the same things as you always do from the same sort of approach, then it's like, I'm still not going to buy it. And I think also another problem for me with like Vogue's, and what I will say that I follow Vogue Portugal on Instagram, and I think their visual content is a lot better than like the British Vogues and the American, because like, let's face it, they're just like
strong at all.
Yeah, they're just like celebrities in nice dresses. And you're like, okay.
I actually follow you for like some editorial, like high thinking, out of the box. Like, I don't know, Zara's website is weirder than your magazine, know? Like, and I don't want to see a model sitting on an oven, but
if that's all I can get, that I'll take it.
I think, and also, it's not just for fashion. Like, there's beauty in that too. Like, I want to see like someone do an incredible makeup, or like someone like do this hairstyle where you're like, it's everything. It's the styling of the shoot. It's like, it's the backdrop. It's everything that could be so elevated. And at times it is, but I also think is the money going into it less? I don't know. And actually what you touched on about, obviously fashion magazines are ultimately, like you said, to sell clothing and basically assist and aid and tell people sort of what the trends are. And basically, it's sort of to tell you what maybe we should invest in. And actually a big thing that people think is a contributing factor to magazines declining is that, like you said, I don't buy Vogue for anything, but like I can't afford the clothes in Vogue. So like it's not there to tell me what I'm buying. I'm there to admire things. If you can afford the clothes in Vogue, that's not where you're getting your style inspo from. You're getting it from your peer group. You're getting it from going into the stores directly. And even if we like strip it down to less expensive luxury magazines, again, how many people do you know buy something because they see it in a magazine? Our biggest contributors to what we buy are probably Instagram ads, people on Instagram, maybe like your peer group, but I wouldn't say many people would flick through a magazine now and choose to buy something from it.
Yeah, that's an excellent point when you said that those who can afford the things that are in vogue are more influenced by their peer group and what they see in their peer group than what a magazine has. And I think that's really insightful, because the reason why Instagram is so popular in getting us and so good at getting us to buy stuff or buy into trends is because the people we follow, we feel are our peer group or our aspiring peer group.
Yeah.
I want to be like these girls or these guys or these people. And so you're like, oh my God, I see this Bottega clutch everywhere. I cannot escape it. It's that repetition, isn't it? And that association with certain types of people that you start wanting to buy into that. And I think that that's essentially it, to be honest, that wealthy people also, they're going to call up their SA and they're going to be like, what's new? What can I pre-order?
Or they've got a stylist that helps them put together, like, it's...
Yeah. But I think that comes onto another point that I have. And it's the direct kind of link between buying things because you've seen them from a magazine. And we've seen like Net-a-Porter, they have Porter magazine and theirs is directly made for that purpose. It's like you can essentially shop the website. And it's really like, I will say Net-a-Porter is really good at that sort of thing. Everything
for sure.
Focused on making it really easy for you to buy whatever you see on their platforms and in their media. And I think that is good and it's really well done in a way. But do you know a website, an account called High Snobriety? It's like for hype beasts and like if you're into sneakers and stuff, it's massive. And they've got like massive base and like millions of followers and stuff like that. And they're coming out with their own magazine at a time when I thought magazines were kind of dying. We do still see examples of new magazines coming out, but theirs is called High Style. And theirs is like an attempt to appeal to the nostalgic segment of Gen Z who are like collecting magazines the way that we used to buy vinyls, because we grew up in the age of CDs, and so buying vinyls were cool. And so their magazine, because they are essentially an online, they got website and Instagram accounts and things like that, and that's the way that they publish content. So to come out with a print magazine, they're basically saying we're doing this to appeal to the nostalgia of Gen Z who never grew up buying into magazines, but they now want to start collecting them. And I thought that was really cool. And also what they said is that it's really digitally incorporated, but not in the way that like Porter is. Porter is all about you can buy everything in our magazine. Theirs is like talking about trends that are springing up online and on like TikTok and whatnot, but also like how is this going to look on Instagram? Their focus is like, how is our magazine gonna look on Instagram beyond anything else? And I thought, wow, that's like next level. That's not like, and also another thing, they're not particularly focused on whether you can buy everything in their magazine. So it's not like Porter in that, like everything is shoppable. Theirs is like, we are just going to make content that appeals to this like digital generation who don't know anything beyond Instagram. Do you know what I mean?
That's so interesting. And actually, like, I guess that's also a big thing is, you know, even to me who's not significantly old, that seems mental to factor in like Instagram into your business model for something that's, you know, an online magazine or online thing, but also then obviously having a physical copy. But like, I guess that's sort of where a lot of these magazines, like, unless they want to shift that way, which like they're not going to want to, I feel fuddy-duddy about like that. So how are they going to feel that they've got this longevity? And of course, they'll still have this older readership, but at some point that's going to disappear and they are going to have to transition into these more bite-sized things. And I'm sure as well, this magazine, High Style, is very more, like, much aware of article length and things like that. And actually, where I work, we've just redone the website, and now every article we post comes with an average of how long it will take you to read it, because we don't have time anymore. Of course we do, we've always had the same amount of time, but like, even for me, my auntie, bless her, like, she'll send me some videos, like some comedy videos. If it's more than 30 seconds, I like only watch the first 20 seconds. I will not watch like a 2-minute video, like, unless it's like a YouTube video of people talking and I care about what they're saying. Like, if it can't get to the point within a certain amount of time, we're done. Yeah. You know, like, that's what TikTok is successful for. You could watch an hour of TikTok, but every video's been like 7 seconds, or like, you know, that kind of a thing. That I also think that's, you know, that's the direction we're moving in. That if we need these small snippets, and I'm sure that's where High Style has really probably like assessed our attention span, you know, it's got shorter and shorter for things like that. So that's really interesting to really take into account Gen Z. And I guess we have to just adapt to like what that they're at some point the future of this country, you know?
Yeah. Another thing about magazines that we have recently seen, it's not happening now, but when we were all kind of talking at the last time about if magazines will survive and this, that, and the other, a lot of magazines started creating their own like exhibitions or events or day trips for their readers, and you could buy tickets or get tickets free for
or like these festival things, you know.
Yeah, and that was a way to like generate money, but also bring more excitement and interest to these magazines as well. Like, for example, we went to the Stylist Mag one, and that was essentially an exhibition where you could listen to talks or watch talks, and there were lots of stalls and they were selling lots of different bits and bobs, and there was food there that kind of fit in with the stylist lifestyle, which is very much like a middle class London centric kind of, you know, vibe. And so that's like another way, like, magazines are cognizant of the fact that we're not buying them as much. And so they're having to diversify in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, like, we see this a lot, even like, you know, with podcasts, like Fern Cotton's got a podcast called Happy Place. And what comes from that is she also puts on these festivals and these events where she gets speakers to come in who maybe have already featured on it. Like, we want these interactive things. And I actually think also, not that they are networking things, but I think we're a generation, or with the younger generation, they like to be seen doing things, you know, like it's an Instagrammable moment, you know, like that people are always going to things. They're always like, you know, wanting to be seen doing stuff. And I don't mean that in like a really naive, superficial way. I think more that is the way to kind of inspire younger people is they're maybe not going to sit at home and, I don't know, sit and flick through Vogue. But if Vogue had an event, they'd want to go to that with their friends. There'll be some Instagrammable spots. They'd learn some stuff, maybe buy some stuff. Like, it's a fun thing. And I think, you know, like even the way that nightlife is going and restaurants, they have to be Instagrammable. And like, as fickle as this all sounds, that social media is such a big driving force, it's also unavoidable at this point. Like, how many times do you see Generation Z literally like posing like their pictures? If you go on like a Gen Z's Instagram, it is people posing, looking amazing, going out with their friends. Like, that is just, it's full of just these really confident girls who like know how to pose better than I will ever know. Like, they really know that life and the game of life is so media heavy. Social media heavy.
I think definitely I think that print media is going to become something like a collectible item. It really is for the nostalgic and those who want to buy into a more expensive, less frequent, more polished, more curated magazine. And then I think all of these like monthly magazines will just fall by the wayside, to be honest. And I mean, people will sign up for those subscriptions, as you said, but I think in terms of print, I think it is dying out. I think it is so less relevant than it used to be. And I mean,
it's a real shame though, because for me, I'm even still more of a physical book girl than a Kindle.
Okay.
So I wonder, and you know, we all thought the invention of a Kindle would mean books are redundant, and actually I think
they've had a revival.
Physical book sales had their highest year last year because and I don't know if that was pandemic, but also like I just prefer a physical book. I get that saves paper with a Kindle, and that is the way that the world will move at some point. They won't ever publish a book on paper. But for now, like, that is my preference. And I guess there'll be people like that with magazines. But I don't know why. I think a magazine to me seems way less cherishable than a book. I think a book, you can read it again. Like, I would be way more inclined to keep every book I've ever read than every magazine I've ever bought.
Because I think it's the frequency of the print. Why would I keep something that comes out every month? And like with book covers, some of them are beautiful, so well designed, or so funny and so thoughtful, and you keep it because aesthetically the book looks great as well. As I touched on before, I think for a lot of these magazines, a lot of the covers are generic, and then when you look at these fashion archival books, the reason why people love them is again because they look great on a coffee table, and they're bold and they're beautiful and they look expensive. And so I think that's why books are going to have their heyday, especially now when people are so more focused on how the interiors of their house looks. I think that plays into it. I think that's why people are buying physical books maybe, but yeah, I think that's probably why.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy. I wonder if, like, you know, I guess one thing that's kind of a big thing as well is that the Met Gala is obviously sorted by Anna Wintour. She hosts that, and that's a very big sort of event for, I mean, it's representing Vogue essentially, you know, like Anna Wintour is the face of it all, and that's like a big event, but like none of that is like involved in the print aspect of anything. So I wonder if it will mean that we see more events a bit like that, where we see these live fashion moments, because like we would literally, the morning after something like the Met Gala, we would be sat on our computers literally going through all the looks, like discussing them. And so I wonder if that's sort of, the world makes more moments like that, or Vogue has like, because I know that's technically not to do with Vogue, that's to do with the Met, but it's obviously hosted by Vogue, Anna, who is Vogue. but I wonder if we see sort of like the Vogue Gala or like, you know, the Vanity Fair ball type thing, you know, it's the Vanity Fair Oscars party. Like, I wonder if that stuff will pop up more or be associated with more events, because I just can't imagine how they're going to keep staying relevant.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think things like that will pop up, and it'll be nice to see more events for the general public to be invited to go, as opposed to things like the Met, where it's just simply like the most successful people in media get to attend. And also another point is that while people aren't buying magazines, I think that to advertise, as we had a previous episode about, to advertise in TV and TV series on Netflix and the Emily in Parises of the world and things, it's far more lucrative for someone to have product placement in something like that.
So many more eyes right now, like, you know.
Yeah, and it goes back to that, I guess, maybe not, that recurring image of something. So we would binge watch a series of 7 episodes, and if I can see a Fendi baguette in every episode, and I can see the lifestyle and the world in which this character lives with fashion, then it's far more impactful than me
You're going to start Googling Fendi baguette, you know?
And as opposed to just seeing it on a few spreads of a magazine and feeling like it's far more unattainable because it's in Vogue. I think that that's also another contributing factor to the reason why media is downhill. I think we've gotten so used to seeing fashion in context, in real context. We see online people with hauls, people who are seemingly like normal with all this high fashion, expensive fashion. We see them just taking pictures of their outfits of the day, and we see our peers, as you mentioned, living that life. So, and magazine just simply does not provide that visual.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's and as much as they try and do the whole everyday people in magazines, and actually there was a really beautiful Vogue shoot where they had people from the pandemic. So I think they had like a post woman, they had loads of people who just had been like frontline sort of working throughout.
We spoke about that.
And that, I think things like that are amazing, but they're too much of a one-off. And the important thing is I can scroll on Instagram, go on Netflix, whatever, and I can see someone who I can see myself in wearing these things. And I think, like, you know, I don't look like a supermodel. I'm like, so I can't be like, yeah, that's kind of me. Like when you flick through those pages, it's sort of meant to be unattainable in Vogue. But like you said, like an Emily in Paris or the Bold type, these sorts of shows, or a Gossip Girl, and you see yourself and you're just like, you keep seeing it and you sort of then think, well, if they can wear it, and actually like she's got a similar body shape to me, or like whatever it is, or like I like her style and actually that's exactly how I want to dress more. You can be so much more inspired. Like the amount I Google things that I have seen is way higher than ever. Like you said, it doesn't linger as long from a magazine. You can be like, that's nice, but
oh well, I'm gonna have it. Yeah.
So what do you think is gonna happen to magazines in like the next 5 to 10 years?
Okay, so I think we're gonna see a lot more events, as we've mentioned, things and pop-ups that you can actually go to. I think that we are going to see lots of other magazines come out and be like, oh, we're doing it differently. You know, this new magazine that we're coming out with is not like the ones you've seen before, when really they're pretty much all seemingly the same. I think that we're going to continue to see magazines being dropped. Like Oprah magazine, O magazine is like said they're no longer going to be like printing that one makes me laugh so much. For like 20 years she has been the only one on the cover and I love it. It is so funny to me.
I love it.
Anyway, and like I think ones like Vice Media no longer printing their Garage magazine and things like, we're going to continue to see headlines like that where they're just ceasing publication. I think that's just inevitable, to be honest. And I also think more people will probably decide they want to buy into these archival fashion books or magazines, which are like special editions. I think that's what we're moving towards. And I think Gucci is going to continue to be like the it girl of high fashion and media. I think they're going to try to. That's what's going to happen. What about you?
Yeah, I actually think the archival book, I think almost like a 1 a year issue could be really interesting. And then and that's not to sort of say that half of the workforce of Vogue needs to be fired. They can still create incredible online content, and it could be the kind of a thing that you have to have like a monthly subscription to unlock more articles and that kind of a thing. It's like BOF, that some articles you can read, but some you have to be subscribed to get the articles, and there are some that would be interesting enough to warrant that. So I think that the online platform will become so much stronger. And that's, I think, where we would see sort of more relevant articles and things like that. And then what I would then want to see on that, the sort of Vogue annual would be basically 100 pages of fashion shoots. That would be my dream of just this year in summary, or some really high fashion editorial stuff.
Maybe behind the scenes imagery as well of these fashion.
And I just think and following the shoot on location, how it gets set up, the looks being laid out and whatever, I think would be really interesting. I think that would be quite a nice way for it to go. But that's so much harder for the likes of a Grazia and the smaller magazines, where I don't think that's sort of their readership. But I'm not here to solve solutions, so.
I'm just here to talk about their problem.
I'm just here to speak dross, so.
I agree. I think that's a really good idea. I think that's excellent idea for magazines moving forward. Otherwise, they just become redundant and boring and samey, to be honest, in my opinion.
And actually, I would buy that. I would buy and have the Vogue annuals. I would buy that.
You would have 10 for every decade. Yeah, that's a good one. Anyway, is that everything?
You're welcome, Anna.
Is that everything you have to say? Because
I think I've just given my best idea out. Yeah.
Well, thanks for listening, guys. It's been another episode of Style Over Substance. We're going to put a poll out. What is our poll this week?
A poll. I was going to maybe say, what do you want to see from magazines in the future?
Yeah.
And we also will put out a question to you guys. We also want to know